Hey, what's up middle schoolers? What's up high schoolers? Todd here, and I know that every Sunday we usually have our S2 service, which recaps the weekend message. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of the points that Pastor Gary made throughout his message. And he took us through the Lord's Prayer, this last part in Matthew 6, verse 13. You guys can turn there if you want. If not, I'm going to go ahead and read that for you. It says, "And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one." And so I have a quick question for you guys. Take a couple seconds to think about this. Have you been tempted lately? Or what's been tempting you specifically during this time? I know staying at home, maybe a lot of you guys are tempted more by social media. Like that's the first thing you do when you wake up. You scroll through Instagram, you spend hours upon hours on your couch watching TikTok videos. Maybe for some of you guys it's video games. Playing it for 3 to 4 hours straight. Animal Crossing, League of Legends, Call of Duty, all these different games. For some of you guys, maybe it's just acting out in anger or being impatient with your parents or different siblings because of how close you guys are now or how much more time you have to spend with one another. And maybe for some of you guys, it's a certain sin. Maybe it's something like lust. Something that you feel is tempting you so much during this time, especially when you're behind closed doors or when you feel like you're all alone. And, I know for a lot of us, we've asked ourselves this question, why am I being tempted? Or who's tempting me? Is God the one tempting me? And we find the answer to this in James chapter 1, verse 13. It says, "When tempted, no one should say, 'God is tempting me,' for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone." So there's our answer. Okay, so God is not the one tempting us. And if we read a verse right after that, verse 14, it says, "But each one is tempted when by his own evil desire," so our own sinful nature, our own evil desire, he is dragged away and enticed. And so we see that our own hearts, our own evil desires are what's tempting us. And not only that, but Pastor Gary, he points out how the devil instigates temptation. The devil is one that instigates temptation. We see this in the story that Jesus tells us where he's in the desert after fasting for quite a long time, and the devil meets him and is tempting him throughout this time. And we see the devil telling Jesus, "Hey, if you're the Son of God, then turn these stones to bread, because I know you've been fasting. Turn these stones to bread." And this is what Jesus' answer was. He says, "Well, it is written, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." So the devil's like, okay, well, he takes him to this holy city, has him stand on the highest temple, and the devil tells him, "Hey, throw yourself down, because scripture says that he will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands. And so God will save you if you throw yourself down." But Jesus' response is, "It is also written, do not put your Lord, your God, to the test." And then finally, we see the devil taking Jesus to this mountaintop, showing him all of these kingdoms and saying, "Hey, if you worship me, if you bow down to me," the devil, "then I can make all of this yours. Only if you bow down to me and worship me." And this is how Jesus responds. He says, "Away from me, Satan. Away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only." And so I want to point out a couple of things. One, Jesus, he is just being tempted by the devil nonstop. And so if you feel that way sometimes, man, we can learn from Jesus' example. And I love Pastor Gary's, a couple of his points that he has regarding our response. And so a couple of things we can do is we can endure evil and we can expose it. Endure evil and we can expose evil. And we see that in Jesus' response. In every moment that he was tempted, he pointed back to scripture. When the devil was tempting him, saying, "Turn these stones to bread," he quotes scripture saying, "It is written, man does not live on bread alone, but every word that comes from the mouth of God." And so we can learn from that. As Jesus endured temptation, we should endure it in the same way. And as Jesus responded by exposing evil that the devil was tempting him with, that's how we should respond as well. We should be pointed to scripture. We should seek God in Scripture, seek strength from God to resist temptation. And so, guys, this week, my hope and my prayer is that when you feel tempted, when you feel enticed, when you feel dragged away, you guys would lean on God. And you'd remember Jesus' example set before us. How we can endure evil, how we can expose evil. And, ultimately we can rest knowing that Jesus is the one that we draw strength from. Right? We can set our eyes, we can focus on God when we are tempted. So guys, I hope that you would take that to heart. I hope that you would keep this part of the Lord's Prayer on your mind. Meditate on it. Sit on it this week. Hope you guys have a blessed day. And we'll see you guys again next week.